Hey everybody, it's the Mad Master here. I'm doing a video today, and this video is kind of something that I've been thinking about for the past couple of weeks. I'm going to probably do a follow-up to this because there are things to be said about recent events or recent things that have happened that lead me to believe that the current zeitgeist that we're living in is about to change. And I'm going to go into one of those events and why I think it was. I'm not going to say any more in this video. Probably think about, oh, wait a second, you were talking about this. Oh, wait, sorry, whatever. But I'm not going to do that many videos today because I'm going to do my podcast and I'm going to release another song and also work on some of the new band I'm in, their material, or the material that we're playing. So what I'm about to say, well, it took me a minute to start saying it, is that I think the pendulum is starting to swing as far as what you want to call political correctness, wokeism, social justice warriors, all this stuff. And the reason I believe that is that, for one, some of the movies that have come out the last couple months, and this sounds like a weird thing to relate to, and I'm going to say right now that I'm not like a pro-military industrial complex kind of guy or whatever. I liked the original movie, but the new Top Gun, for example, it's like the biggest movie in the world right now, or it was. And you have The Northman. You have movies like that defy we have to have this, it's not, there's other movies coming out too, I'm sure, that are fine, with having more than just one skin color in the movie. I'm not talking about oh, well, Top Gun and Northman are all white people, so that means all the terrible people are gone. No, I'm not saying that has anything to do with it. I'm just saying that in 2022, at this day and age, the fact that there were movies that they didn't try to force into this type of whatever you want to call it is kind of a living miracle, and just a testament to audiences are accepting these things, these messages. Obviously, Norway was pretty white in the 11th century or whatever, or if you do, alternatively, if you did it's like when they whitewash movies that take place in biblical times or whatever. I think it's just as bad. Like Akira, I think they wanted all these white actors to play him. I don't think it's good one way or the other. You can make some excuses and all this shit that they've been trying to do, with the new Lord of the Rings thing, which is which seems to have a lot of backlash. But my point is, we're going towards a zeitgeist change, a pendulum swinging in the other direction, and there's a lot of reasons for that, culturally, politically, and otherwise. Now, the important thing is to not lose sight over who our true enemies are, and that's the elite structure of society, the people, especially my pet peeve are neoliberal, corporatist, globalists, whatever you want to call them, because they seem to want to have this lopsided view on the world that is, they'll use identity politics to push their aims towards a global society, top-down global society, that is. And that's dangerous to me for a multitude of reasons. So I think we're going through this right now. I think we're kind of going through into a new precipice of reality. And I see that in many different ways. I'll just say, I don't want to talk about this in this video, but because I'm going to do a separate video on this. But the trial, the trial that just happened. The fact that there are so many people that believe Depp's side in that, I'm going to do a separate video. Like I said, I'm going to try not to get this all tangled up into this video, but I have a lot of opinions about what that means. And it might be like almost, you could consider this part 1 of this video that this message I'm trying to say. So we can't lose sight of that. We can't lose sight of the good things about the left. If you know, for those that who watch my channel who do believe there's good things about the left, tolerance, wanting to like progress things, like trying different things, trying new things. Now, the bad things are where in the last 10, 50, 100 years, where people consider social science actual science that overrides biological science or what I'm trying to say, like evolutionary science. This is my main problem with the left, pretty much. Oh, well, everything's socially constructed. We're all blank slates. There's no influence of your environment or chemicals in your brain or evolution. You know, like we're not evolving, you know, we're just a blank slate society. And that's my problem with the left. And that's my problem with a lot of the gender ideology too. It's like, oh, there's no such thing as biological sex, but, you know, women, you know, are oppressed, but sex doesn't exist. It's like this, like, dual, like, self-contradictory thing with regards to all these messages that we're hearing. So I think a lot of what's going on is a backlash. You'll see it in movies. You'll probably start seeing it in music more. You'll start seeing it in various cultural things. It's not just like the Ben Shapiro's film company. It'll be other movies that have like, wait a second. You know, you'll have like these little, you'll start seeing these movies where they would have gone a certain way, like, you know, 5 years ago or 3 years ago. And then you'll see it, you know, kind of, I'm just predicting I could be all wrong. You'll start seeing like a more traditional, dare I say, like a traditional family things, maybe not totally traditional, but, you know, like you'll start seeing more of these messages, I think, in Hollywood. I think it's like we're living in the 80s to some extent again, when you have new STD, quote unquote, with the monkeypox. You have inflation, like the early 80s. These two things are like the early 80s. Bidenflation, of course. And I'm not going to say Putin price hikes, because that's a crock of shit when this shit started last year, well before the Putin thing. The Putin thing doesn't help. It definitely is part of it. But for them to just like gaslight people into thinking it's all Putin, because inflation's been going on since like spring, summer of 2021. And people were warning about it back then, and there was a lot of controversy about it back then. And like, how could we forget this? But of course, the powers that be are pieces of shit. So they're probably reptilians. So yeah, I foresee there's going to be a backlash against all this stuff. And, you know, whether the midterms reflect that, whether our society at large reflects that, I think the best thing we can do, and probably what I think is going to happen, is I don't think we're going to go back to like all these stereotypes in movies or comics or books. I think it'll be more like 2010, you know, ish kind of stuff. Like, I'm not saying this is going to happen at all. I'm not sure this is going to happen. I'm just giving this kind of thought. Like, how would like returning to the old ways before the wokeism took hold in our culture and society, what would that look like? I think the closest reference we have are like the early 2010s, like late 2000, you know, like 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, whatever. Like, you're not going to be able to say people are still not going to use, you know, homophobic epithets in podcasts. Like, I was part of this podcast. The guy said the F-A-G word all the time, or F-H, the bundle of sticks word all the time. Could he get away with that today? No. I mean, obviously not. And he won't be able to with this new zeitgeist, is what I'm trying to say. But if you call something G-A-Y, gay, if you call something like that as an offhanded thing once in a while on a podcast, you're not going to, I'm just saying, like, you're going to be, under this new zeitgeist, I think it'll be less apt to be canceled by woke culture because people just will laugh it off and say it's wrong. You know, you'll apologize, but it won't be like 2014 through 21, where if you say it, you'll like lose sponsors. This is just what I'm saying. I'm just pontificating, like, this might be what's going to happen. You know, it's not going to be as extreme, you know, as it's been. And that's a welcome change. Now, that's among the left. I think the left will, I mean, some of the left, more of the mainstream people. I'm on the right. Of course, we have to worry about the abortion thing. Evangelicals, they still are a threat. You know, they still are a threat. They're not as much of a threat as a lot of the left likes to say, because people, you know, the regular person is going to laugh off half that shit. But if they are a threat, you know, obviously with this abortion thing and stuff, with Trump and everything, dare I say. I'm not like the normal anti-Trump left-winger person, because I'm like, okay, he's just another tool of the elites in society. Like, I don't see him as special. This is the problem with what I had with Trump, is both the right and the left saw Trump as some like special aberration that's especially egregious to our society. Obviously, he took some things to a cartoon length, or a cartoon size, but I don't think he was like. And then there's some things, dare I say, that I liked about him too, in some ways. The anti-establishment, Tarianism, pseudo or faux anti-establishmentarianism, obviously. But at least the word was out there that, oh, fuck the establishment, right? Even if Trump was part of the establishment on some level, or wants to be, or whatever. And the economic populism, to some extent, you know, I would say like more like a more pragmatic foreign policy versus imperialism, you know, on some levels. Of course, the North Korea thing with the tweets and the escalation of war possibly was pretty scary time. I think, like I said in previous videos, I think he probably did some back channel stuff at the same time. It was probably an act to some extent, but I don't know for sure. So I'm not a supporter of Trump. But of course, Biden, I think the reason why the Democrats piss me off more now is because Republicans are crazy. You have like the crazy fucking evangelicals and stuff. The Democrats are evil. Because what's worse is evil is worse than crazy in some ways. Because, like, and I think I've realized this, like, Democrats are evil because they're more insidious about the corruption. They're more under the surface. So that's why I talk about them more. Because it's more hidden from your average person. Your average person that went to college and maybe they have a fucking master's or a doctorate, you know. They'll think that the Democrats are better and all this stuff. And then if you're actually on the dissident left or the right, you'll know about all the corrupt scandals. You'll know about all the stuff, or you'll listen to Noam, or read Noam Chomsky and all this stuff. So that's why I talk about the Democrats like I do. People probably misinterpret what I say as a right winger. Of course, with the Koof crisis, I was definitely at least allied with much of the right wing on that for various reasons. Now, you know, my opinion is continuing to evolve with that. At this point in time, I still don't really regret my opinion about it per se. I do want to empathize more with people that did have the opposite opinion. I do want to be more sympathetic to them, because I think being too confrontational doesn't exactly help with your argument or your cause, regardless of what some of my viewers may think. I don't think it does. I think it just, you know, it just makes things more muddled. present the facts and go wherever you will with them. So I'm just kind of announcing that out there, that I don't really think, like, there's certain people that I understand. I disagree, like, for example, and I'm you know, I'm going totally off subject, but to some extent, you know, I understand why certain people wear masks still. Now, when I see someone that's like obviously a young person that's svelte, and they're wearing an N95 everywhere, and they're like young and hip and stuff, that bothers me more than like even a middle-aged person that's has a few pounds on them that is wearing a mask everywhere. That makes me more mad, is when it's a young person that they're just like, you know, that's okay. That's enough about that. But so I don't know what this is gonna look like, this new backlash against wokeism, and that it's gonna go into the mainstream for sure. I mean, I think it's gonna look like what it is right now. This is the turning is happening. This change over. I think there was an article about this, like Sagar and Jetty talked about it on some, you know, about the Top Gun thing, ironically enough. I forgot what it was called, but it was like on The Cut or something like that, this article about this cultural shift or whatever. And the turning is happening right now as we look at the box office. Now, there's gonna be these movies that come out or book or comics or whatever, they're totally like woke and like have, you know, you have to have like a transgendered African-American dwarf with OCD and like stumps for legs, you know, in a movie, like, and they have to be the superhero and they have to be totally flawless. This is kind of the caricature, right? Totally flawless and polyamorous and like smoke vape pot all day and like, you know, you know, and like have a BLM thing like on their butt, like a tattoo and stuff like that. I'm just like doing the most extreme thing ever. You're gonna have stuff like that obviously still come out, but like Ghostbusters ish sort of, they had some woke stuff, of course. The Northman, what is it called, Top Gun. You're gonna have more stuff like that come out, and you're gonna have, I'm just talking culturally, it does reflect our reality. I think with the pandemic. Okay, sorry. I was just making a joke. Just giving a little ammunition for my critics and, you know, a little treat for my fans. With the pandemic, you know, stuff. I think there will be more of a fuck fest going on, you know, with people. I think it's going to be, people are going to want to escape more. People are going to want to talk less about social subjects and stuff. I mean, in a certain way. The militarism bothers me. That's one part of the backlash I don't like. Another part of the backlash is the more traditional, it sounds weird, but more traditional social, what's it called? More traditional social roles, or you know, more socially right, you know, social issues, the right wing on social issues. I don't fucking care if a person's married or not. I think I'm more libertarian about this stuff. I think if you want to have a polyamorous relationship and be a total like the passive bitch guy in that situation, like, and you have your husband's or your wife's boyfriend that you defer to or whatever in these weird situations, I think have at it, you know. But if you people want to be traditional and have a housewife and, you know, traditional, like 50s traditional, have at it as well. I think the problem is when one side tries to like say one, you know, you shouldn't, you know, they try to rule over the other side, you know, or say, oh, this is not good, you know. So yeah, I don't believe that people, and the same goes with all the gender stuff, you know. It's like, okay, people have called me a bigot, implied it that I don't want to fuck around with, you know, women that aren't born women, okay, or that I don't want to fuck around with men. I've been told that, and actually implied this thing. I think she just wanted to fuck two guys at once, and she just didn't want to admit it. But anyways, you know, I think this is a true story. I mean, not think it's a true story. It's a true story, but it's you know, it's one of those things that we have to think about, though. Like, it's like, how far do we want to go with this? It's like, do we want to go back to like the 80s with like racial caricature stereotypes in movies, like who are the terrorists, and, you know, and Missing in Action. No, some of those movies, Invasion USA, they're fun movies, but, you know, I mean, I don't think we should have that as the rule of movies, you know, as far as going forward. They're fun, you know, they're terrible, but they're fun, you know. So how far do we want to go in that direction? But I think the blasé, like 2006 through 2011, like that kind of vibe with culture and our society, you know, is a good thing. I think we should go back to like this sort of, okay, it's okay to talk about fitness. Like Michelle Obama. I know Drone Obama, right? He's Drone Obama, killed a lot of children in the Middle East with drones by his own, like, will to do that, right? Because we have to do whatever, you know, whatever they're trying to do with this project, whatever they were trying to do with that, right? A lot of dead children on his hands. Same with Hillary, even worse in a certain way. But Michelle Obama, for one thing that she did that was good, it would never fly today. But, you know, a couple months from now, a couple years, maybe. And she talked about people's fitness, about the obesity epidemic. Whatever happened to the obesity epidemic, you know? Whatever happened to these things? Like, we used to talk about the fact that people were super obese and was this health, like, crisis that we were living before the current health crisis, you know? We used to talk about that. We don't talk about it anymore. But Michelle Obama talked about healthy food and like exercise and shit. It was like, I think we were going to return to that. Like, that'll be, it's going to be weird because I predict like, maybe it'll be like this right-wing thing. Like, we got to talk about being healthy. Like, already the right wing has kind of co-opted a lot of like the weird hippie left stuff, like with GMOs, like with Alex Jones, people like that, like non-GMO foods and like supplements and like non-chemically oriented things and stuff. I was having a conversation years ago with a former friend of mine. It's like, oh yeah, I have this relative that's Republican, but she's all into like non-GMO foods and like organic stuff, and it's kind of become like this right-wing thing, which is really strange considering the history of that. But I could see like this clash between these two sides, and there'll be some people in the middle or some, you know, left-wingers that are like, oh, well, this is ridiculous, we should be healthy. You know, there could be this new culture war with some of that stuff too. So overall, I think people are sick of all the bullshit over the woke culture and all that stuff. It's like when every fucking movie that comes out or every old franchise, they kill the male hero to make way for some female heroine or hero, and you kill them in like the first quarter of the movie or whatever, like they've been doing. When every movie's like that, when every movie has the same fucking script, like, oh, this troubled woman that is, you know, has all this power, like even has no flaws with her powers, even if she had a flawed past or whatever. Every movie and every book is about this, has the same trope. There's going to be a backlash. It's like, obviously, like the archetypical like hero and, you know, the guy and the old wizard and all that shit, all the Carl Jung, Joseph Campbell shit gets old too. But it's like this new trope. It's based on, it's not, I'm just going to be really honest, it's not based on reality. Because, I don't know, it's not based on archetypical, like, ancient things in human beings. I'm not saying that women can't be heroes or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, the way that it's done is not based on reality. So, there's going to be a backlash. I'm kind of stammering in this video a little bit, but, you know, I think there's a backlash. And I think we're coming to this cultural change. And I don't know who's going to spearhead it and how it's going to look, but I think we're kind of coming to that. People are going to be, I think, way more 2010 than 2020 or 2022. I think people are going to be more like that, and that's a good thing. Those were good days for me in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, that time was really good. And when all this shit happened, you know, there needed to be a repudiation of some of it. You know, they used to have the show The Pickup Artist on VH1 with Eric von Markovic, also known as Mystery, and some other people. Imagine if a mainstream television show tried to have pickup artists on it nowadays. Twitter would like call for a boycott. They'd be out the offices like protesting and all this stuff. But that was like 2009, 2010, or a little bit before that, I think. But just imagine, you know, things used to be a little different, but they weren't like terrible like the 80s or like the 60s or 50s or whatever. Like you're not going to have like a white guy play like a guy, Asian person and have like, I, you know, talk like that and be all weird. Like, what was that movie with Marilyn Monroe or whatever the fuck? You know, like you're not going to have that kind of thing with this new zeitgeist, but you're not going to have like total backlash against anything that that is a little bit weird with something. So that's my point. And I hope this happens. I think we're about to. Now, the dangers, like I said, are the right wing really taking hold of our society and culture, because that is dangerous in its own way. It's already happening, unfortunately, with the abortion thing, and I do not like that. So I think it's hard to be in this middle position with this whole thing. Like, okay, I watch Red Letter Media with Mike, God, I can't pronounce his last name sometimes. You know, Mike, Jay and Mike, you know, on Red Letter Media. And Mike's always talking about the new Star Trek. He doesn't talk about how woke it is necessarily. He just talks about how dumb the plots are and how they retcon all this stuff. And like, you know, they totally don't know the lore and they don't know all this stuff. But the plots and the metaphors aren't there. And, you know, it's all beat you over the head with these messages. And I think there'll be less of that too. I think people try to do metaphor and allegory. Like this new movie from Cronenberg. I definitely want to see it, you know. Kristen Stewart, who I think actually is really talented, because I saw her in the Runaways movie more recently, and I'm like, wow, her and Robert Pattinson have kind of come a long way. But that's about all.